There's a robin in your yard that pauses mid-hop when you step to the window, tilts its head at just the right angle, and looks directly at you with something that feels unmistakably like recognition. You've dismissed it as instinct, but recent research has proven birds possess both sensory and self-awareness, and science can no longer pretend they don't feel what we've always suspected they do. 4 months ago, something shifted in the scientific community that changed how we understand that robin's tilted head pause. Studies of sensory consciousness show that birds do more than automatically react to stimuli. They appear to have subjective experiences and the neural architecture to support it. The breakthrough came from researchers at Ruhr University Bochum, publishing in November 2025 what many consider the most comprehensive analysis of avian consciousness to date. Their work highlighted three central areas in which birds show remarkable parallels to conscious experience in mammals: sensory consciousness, neurobiological foundations, and self-consciousness. They didn't just suggest birds might be conscious. They provided neurological proof that they process experiences in ways startlingly similar to our own minds. The sensory consciousness findings alone upend decades of assumptions. When pigeons are shown visually ambiguous images, they alternate between different interpretations, demonstrating what researchers call bistable perception. The same phenomenon that occurs when you look at an optical illusion and see it flip between two different images. This isn't instinct responding to stimuli. This is a mind actively interpreting what it perceives, making choices about meaning, experiencing the world through a lens of awareness rather than mere reaction. But the neurological evidence proved even more startling. The brains of birds show that evolution can achieve similar functional solutions to consciousness despite radically different structures. Because their neurons are smaller, the pallium of songbirds and parrots actually comprises many more information processing neuronal units than the equivalent-sized mammalian cortices. Your backyard robin isn't just operating with a smaller version of a mammalian brain. It's running a completely different neural architecture that achieves consciousness through an entirely separate evolutionary pathway. The researchers tested this using the same protocols that measure consciousness in humans and primates. Crows performed a delayed stimulus detection task. Sometimes the stimuli were presented, other times not, and the crows reported whether they saw them or not. The birds weren't just detecting stimuli, they were experiencing awareness of their own perceptions, then communicating those subjective experiences back to researchers. Perhaps most unsettling was the discovery of what scientists term self-awareness in species we encounter daily. Birds exhibit sensory consciousness, neurobiological substrates, and forms of self-perception, indicating that consciousness can arise in diverse brain structures and is more evolutionarily widespread than previously thought. The mirror tests, the problem-solving behaviors, the social recognition, all of it points to birds possessing not just awareness of their environment, but awareness of themselves within that environment. This research coincided with equally groundbreaking work from Cornell University and the University of Washington, where scientists documented complex emotional responses that mirror human grief patterns. In wild bird populations, grief-like behaviors have been documented across numerous species. Birds returning repeatedly to the nests of lost mates, ceasing to sing, withdrawing from social groups. The evidence strongly supports that birds experience grief in ways that parallel aspects of mourning in humans and other mammals. The University of Washington's John Marsluff, a specialist in corvid behavior, has been particularly vocal about the implications. It's often assumed that birds' alien brain architecture limits thought, consciousness, and most advanced cognition, he noted, but the 2025 studies demonstrate exactly the opposite, that consciousness can emerge from neural structures completely unlike our own. What you're witnessing in your yard isn't a mechanical response. It's a mind meeting yours. Given that birds like your backyard robin possess the same neural foundations for consciousness that we do, just through completely different brain architecture, do you think we've been underestimating their emotional lives this whole time? Comment your thoughts below. Drop your answer in the comments below. Because what science discovered next about how birds process grief will fundamentally change how you see that robin's behavior. The birds in your yard already know something about you that you're only now learning about them. Every interaction you've had with them has been a meeting between two conscious minds. Think about what this actually means for the robin that visits your feeder each morning. It's not just recognizing the pattern of your movement or the sound of your footsteps. It's experiencing the subjective awareness of seeing you, processing that recognition through a conscious mind, and making deliberate choices about how to respond. When it pauses and looks directly at you, that moment of eye contact is happening between two beings capable of subjective experience. The bird is aware that it is aware of you, and you're both participants in a conscious exchange that science can no longer dismiss as mere instinct. Where there is a realistic possibility of consciousness, we have an ethical obligation to consider the welfare risks and interests of those animals as individuals. This point is crucial. Your backyard isn't just habitat. It's home to conscious beings who experience their environment subjectively, who feel the stress of threats, the satisfaction of finding food, and the complex emotions we've only recently begun to understand. Now that we understand birds as conscious beings, how do you actually interact with them ethically? Start with patience. When you step outside, move slowly and avoid sudden gestures. Conscious birds are processing your intentions just as you process theirs. Create predictable routines, fill feeders at consistent times, use the same paths through your yard. This allows the birds to anticipate your presence rather than experience it as a constant disruption. Choose native plants over exotic ones. Native species provide the insects and seeds that local birds have evolved to recognize and process. When a conscious bird searches for food, it's making complex decisions about energy expenditure and risk. Native plants make those calculations easier and more successful. Keep cats indoors, especially during dawn and dusk when birds are most active. A conscious bird experiences the stress of predator threats as genuine fear, not just biological programming. Position feeders where birds have clear sight lines and quick escape routes to cover. This isn't just about survival, it's about reducing the psychological stress that conscious creatures experience when they feel trapped or exposed. If you find an injured bird, contact local wildlife rehabilitators rather than attempting care yourself. A conscious being in pain deserves professional treatment, and improper handling can increase both physical trauma and psychological stress. Clean your feeders regularly with diluted bleach solution to prevent disease transmission. Conscious birds can't understand why they're getting sick, only that they feel unwell. During nesting season, observe from a distance. Conscious parent birds experience real anxiety when they perceive threats to their young. If you discover a nest in your yard, mark the area mentally and give it space. Watch for behavioral cues. If a bird seems agitated by your presence, you're too close. The birds around your house have been watching you with the same kind of conscious attention you've been giving them, but with a crucial difference. They've always known you were conscious. Now that science has confirmed they possess consciousness too, the question becomes what we do with this knowledge. Every decision about pesticides, window placement, feeding schedules, and habitat preservation is now a decision about the welfare of conscious individuals who experience the consequences of our choices. Let's step back and recap what science has revealed about the birds in your yard. First, they demonstrate sensory consciousness, actively interpreting what they perceive rather than just reacting to stimuli. Second, their neural architecture proves consciousness can emerge through completely different evolutionary pathways than our own. Third, they exhibit self-awareness and emotional complexity, including grief responses that mirror human mourning patterns. These three findings converge on a single conclusion. The birds around you possess subjective experiences and conscious awareness of their world, including their awareness of you. The robin that recognizes you isn't just a beautiful bird, it's a conscious being whose subjective experience of the world includes you as a familiar presence in its daily life. When you see it tomorrow morning, you'll be looking at a mind that experiences the world with awareness, intention, and feeling. This revelation reframes every moment you've shared with the birds in your space. That cardinal that sang outside your window during the pandemic wasn't just making noise. It was a conscious being expressing itself in its environment. The crow that seems to remember you from week to week isn't just displaying learned behavior. It's a conscious individual who recognizes you as another conscious being in its world. The chickadees that approach when you fill the feeder aren't just responding to food availability. They're conscious creatures making deliberate choices about trust and risk. A realistic possibility of sentience is sufficient to warrant serious moral consideration. This means the burden of proof has shifted. We can no longer assume birds are merely biological automatons until proven otherwise. The evidence for their consciousness is now strong enough that our default position should be treating them as the conscious beings they've been all along. The transformation in how we understand these relationships is both humbling and elevating. Humbling because it reveals how much we've underestimated the inner lives of creatures we share space with daily. Elevating because it means your backyard is richer with conscious experience than you ever imagined. Every bird that visits represents not just biological diversity, but a unique conscious perspective on the world. Your robin's tilted head paws tomorrow morning will carry new weight. It's a conscious being acknowledging your presence, just as you're acknowledging theirs. The difference is that now you both know what you're looking at. Two minds shaped by different evolutionary paths, but sharing the fundamental capacity for subjective experience, meeting in the space between your worlds. Subscribe for more hidden science in your backyard. Next, what birds actually think when they see you.